Hey everybody, just want to make sure that you can hear me. Alright, we have Biddy Unicorn and Aron Beierschmitt here right now. Good evening and good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Crypto Unicorns Weekly AMA with Aron Beierschmitt, Crypto Unicorn CEO and co-founder. I'm Sparkly Unicorn with my co-host, Biddy Unicorn,
Hey,
and Tech Stealthy Unicorn. This is the sixth in our weekly AMA series in the weeks leading up to the Crypto Unicorns game launch. Today, we're on a different platform. We're in Twitter Spaces. We're holding the AMA here temporarily due to issues with Discord. Let me just run by the AMA mechanics real quickly, then we can start. First things first, you can only participate as a speaker on Twitter Spaces if you're listening to us on your mobile device. Press the request button on the lower left if you want to speak. The button looks like a microphone. You can press that button anytime to queue up, even while somebody's talking. Once we accept your request, you'll see that the text under your name has changed from listener to speaker. When you're ready to speak, unmute your microphone by tapping on it once. You can also show us how you feel, even if you're not speaking. To show agreement or disagreement to what's being said, tap on the heart icon with a plus sign found at the bottom right of the space. We'll pick people one by one so everybody has a chance to ask something. Once you're unmuted, feel free to ask your question. We also have questions from shy and busy unicorns. It's on the AMA questions channel. We will get to those too, but we'll prioritize spoken questions over written ones. We might not have enough time to cover all of the questions, so if you'd like to bring a written question to the front of the line, just press request to speak and ask away. Okay, so let's have a spoken question. All right. Okay, so let's have a written question first.
all right. First question is, since the game will be rendered client-side and we're always using Chrome as the preferred browser, will it be optimized for Chrome on the M1 chips for Mac OS? Or does the team recommend using Chrome on Windows that runs on Intel or AMD?
I use an M1. It runs fantastic for me. It's probably the best performance you can have on it, to be honest. So we've spent a lot more time optimizing for non-M1 Macs. And as I've kind of mentioned before, we're front loading a lot of the assets. That's where we've uncovered the biggest hitches is when an asset needs to load over our CMS. So the very first time you open the website and connect your wallet, you're going to experience a pretty long load, similar to downloading an app, right? So like a mobile app, right? You would have maybe 100, as much as 150 megabytes up front. Obviously, that gets cached, and so it's kind of a one-time thing. Subsequent loads across all devices, all platforms is going to be much, much, much quicker. And specifically for M1s, yeah, it works great. I was actually complaining about the time the team was spending on optimizations, and my CTO and co-founder, Steven, was like, dude, you're on an M1. You are kind of getting the first class experience. And so, yeah, like I said, we spent a lot of time optimizing for some of the lower end platforms. And another thing I mentioned is there will be a graphics kind of toggle to remove things like shadows and stuff to further increase performance on for lower end devices.
Yeah, I can personally attest to this. I've tested the game on maybe 4 different machines, and my toaster machine has definitely benefited so much from the last few weeks of optimization. Thank you
Awesome.
so much, Dev team.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
I'll pass that along.
All right, so let's have the next written question.
All right. The next written question is, you have touched on the importance of social feature neighborhoods in previous AMAs. Is there anything you can tell us about how this feature will work? Will you be able to team up with other cores and do things together in a multiplayer type way? Or is it literally just connecting LAN together and giving each other LAN buffs? Following on from the first question.
Yeah, so most of our features, whether it's, jousting, racing, team RPG, etc., you're going to get the first version, which we view as kind of the MVP, and then we layer on top. So the first version of Neighborhoods is going to effectively let you join a neighborhood with your friends, similar to guild systems and kind of other games. That will allow you to obviously mix and match your land pieces together to kind of combine them for optimal adjacency bonuses and things of that nature. And then the plan is over time to layer in more and more social features. Like, poop is kind of ephemeral, for example. If you miss it, it's gone. So maybe your neighbors can help you collect that and things. So we're thinking through a lot of different mechanics on that front. Katrina, our product director, and I did get the first version of the neighborhood spec, and it's like 6 years of work. It's a very cool design. But again, we start with the foundation, we start building the scaffolding, we continue to layer features on that over time. And as we approach and get launched, we're going to be sharing Notion docs. So there'll be a game guide, which we've talked about. The new thing is going to be effectively our roadmap. And so you'll see the like overarching roadmap, and then on a feature by feature basis, you're going to see the roadmap kind of for that for those features. So it's very clear like where we start and where we head with these things over time. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that definitely is. By the way, somebody reached out to me before saying that they're afraid of asking a question that's already been asked and feeling like a dumb corn. Hey, that's okay. First of all, nobody is a dumb corn here, all right? Secondly, there's a chance that we have more to say on the topic as we come closer to the game launch. So there's nothing wrong about asking for an update to something that's already been asked. So, any speakers? Hmm. See, the audience is just warming up, so let's just get another written question for now.
Okay. Are there any plans for multiplayer exploration that let us control our corns using a mouse and a keyboard or a controller, third person style?
That one's hard for me to answer without leaking some alpha we don't want to leak yet. So, all I'll say is not in the way people probably expect, but you should keep an eye out for a draft proposal in the forum that isn't coming from Laguna here in probably the next 30 to 45 days. I have seen a lot of the ideas around, giving you kind of like first person camera views and things like that within the farm sim. And I think those ideas are awesome. It does force certain additional asset weight and stuff on us if we're going to get that close and intimate to things. We'd have to make updates to the skybox and all this kind of stuff. And so we're thinking about giving you ways to interact with your unicorns differently. One we've announced, which is kind of the living NFT thing, tying little AI modules to the NFT so you can train them to do cool and kind of fun things. And that gives us a whole platform to expand off of further to, give these things more emotional resonance and from there. And then there's another thing that I'm just not going to reveal today that will give you more control over your corns and kind of a fun auxiliary experience. And I'll leave it at that. Good question, though. Really difficult to not leak some alpha there.
All right, great. Let's go with another question. In the current format, everyone is equal in RBW staking reward. Is there a plan for CU to provide more reward to gamers, content creators that add real value in the game and ecosystem compared to someone who just rides the game by staking his RBW and does not even play?
Yeah, I did an AMA yesterday where I discussed particularly our upcoming kind of bug bounty program. Find a bug, get RBW is kind of the TLDR on that front. And I think that's a really good example of, games in the space today are very focused on obviously the play and earn and the staking portion as mechanisms for distribution of the token. And I think there's a lot of additional ways that are incredibly important that we can use as avenues for furthering the token distribution. I would say on the staking side, we hit just under 50%, 40 something percent of staked RBW holders voted on the first snapshot proposal. I was a little frustrated by that because I wanted to beat, American democracy, which is usually about 50%. So we were a little bit under that. I think if you take a step back, though, the vast majority of DAOs in the space see less than 10% of, token holders vote. And so it's pretty cool to see that we're many, many multiples above and beyond that. I am not very interested in people staking and just getting yield and not participating in governance. So I am actively
Uh, view and okay. Okay, I'm dito tayo sa ano.
Fun, always fun.
This is a struggle. I'm just going to let General know we have 16 people in the audience right now. Okay. All right. Well, we are building up our audience. Let's get ourselves a question. Is there any information that you can share about when the 9 land cap will be over? There have been questions around whether we should be hoarding land on one wallet or splitting them into multiple wallets at launch.
Yeah, not until the neighborhoods feature is released will the 9 lands cap be removed. And we don't yet know what the final cap will be on a per account basis. That's just going to come down to testing and probably ultimately a trade-off because WebGL can only do so much. We're obviously past all the airdrops, so there's not going to be anything. You will not be hurt or penalized for distributing lands across multiple accounts to get prepared to play the game. So I would go ahead and do that, free and clear of worry.
All right, you heard it here, folks. You will not be hurt or penalized for distributing your lands into different wallets to play the game. Because this has been a lot, this has been asked a lot recently because everybody's been strategizing about the game now. So I'm sure this will come as a relief to a lot of people. Okay, let's have another question. Since the game will be rendered client side, oh, okay, this has been already asked. Okay, in the white paper, the distribution section of RBW mentioned that 500 million RBW will be released through P2E every month. What are the specific ways to release the 500 million RBW? Is there any specific way besides gathering?
Ooh, okay, somebody needs to work on their math. 500 million per month is insanity. We only have a billion total supply here, people. So I don't know where they got 500 million. And if they can point out any documentation of ours that indicates that, we need to change it immediately because that is insanity.
Yeah.
I don't know what the exact cadence of RBW release is. There's obviously a target, and you can go into the white paper and you can look at that table and see whatever the monthly target is. Um, you're going to see that distributed via gathering, loot boxes, and the RBW marketplace after the MVP launch is May 2nd. And as we layer in the battle loops and other systems, that is going to be predominantly where you will be able to get RBW via the play and earn, or RBW from the play and earn pool. Other ways to leaderboard events, right, and all that kind of fun stuff over time. But initially on launch, you're looking at gathering, you're looking at loot boxes, and obviously the RBW marketplace.
All right. I just did a quick look at our white paper, and it does say that the unlock is 5 million per month, guys, not 500 million. We would be swimming in RBW for
Yeah,
that.
that would be how to destroy economy in 30 days is what that would be. So yes.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
glad we clarified that.
Mhm. So if you guys want to take a look at the unlock schedule for the P2E, just go to our white paper on official links, and then under Rainbow Play and Earn, and then the detailed unlock schedule will be there along with the unlock schedules for the other allocations that we have for RBW. Okay, and since Witty Unicorn is having some technical difficulties, let's bring over Stealthy for our co-host. Stealthy, are you ready? You better be. All right, it's so great to hear your
It's
voice.
just you and me. Everybody's dropping like flies. I see Rubik. He's got his hand up. Let's get him up here.
All right, come on over, Rubik.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Again.
hear you.
Oh, cool. Hi everyone. I don't know how to ask this question. It's going to sound like really not fluid, but I'll try and get it out. So this question is related to economy, but also to a comparison with Web 2 and Web 3 games, like Clash of Clans and Battle Play and Unknown Battlegrounds. Number like the most concurrent players on Steam ever. Only lasted 3 months, and then it lost all its players. Or it didn't lose more, but it lost a lot. That peak was gone pretty quick. So the fluctuation of players, like in Web 2, it's okay to bring out content in staggered, with dips where players leave and come back, and the momentum, players go play something else while they wait for another game, another expansion pack to come out. Do you think that Web 3 can afford to lose momentum by having that content like Axie Infinity? How slow they've been to deliver content, I think's killed their game, and potentially no one may never recover. They may not. Has that been something you've thought about, Aaron, about with developing a Web3 game and maintaining content to keep the people engaged and playing? Because once the economy, once the player base gets to a certain point and starts to extract a lot of the, more than what's going to go in, the only thing that's going to keep people playing is new content and fun and good things to do. So, does that make sense? What I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, it does. It's a lot of, I think, our experience building Web 2 free play mobile games in particular is going to help us in that respect. Earlier, when I was kind of discussing that, around launch time, probably slightly after launch, we're going to be releasing via Notion our kind of like master roadmap. And then you'll be able to kind of click in and look at like jousting neighborhoods, those kind of features, and see effectively a roadmap associated with that feature. And it's very much that idea of like you put out the MVP and you continue to layer features and functionality on top of that. And I do believe you need to maintain a steady cadence of that. Each time you release a new feature, you potentially add utility to the NFTs, more fun. I teased this kind of auxiliary experience. We've talked about the whole living NFT thing. And so, yeah, I mean, we are trying to, I think, move at a very aggressive pace to, deliver features and content. It's a huge part of the reason that we have this idea of like multiple battle loops, and basically every single quarter you're going to get a battle loop. And there's this neighborhoods feature, which adds some social depth, which, initially is very minimal, but we can, it gives us great foundation to kind of layer on top of. And I think the most consistent thing is going to be like an event harness, which is kind of just a technical term for a system that gives us the ability to say this week it's Cloudberry week, and there's a Cloudberry leaderboard, and the more Cloudberries you produce, the better you rank on that leaderboard, and there's tiers and rewards and things like that. So somebody that's really into that loop, has cloud class unicorns and things, is going to be like all over that. And then we have the event harness allows us to run simultaneous, like multiple events simultaneously. So there may be a Heartberry also, and it's like Team Cloud via Team Heart, and whoever harvests the most berries gets an additional bonus and a reward and things like that. And so yes, we have this like feature roadmap, and every time we release a new feature, I think that will add variety, depth, more fun, more utility. Great. In the middle of all of that is us running these like in-game events that are tied to specific game loops and reward players who are trying to progress against those loops. So Rubik, I think that's kind of how I would respond to your question and how we think about, layering it. I think games that have gotten into a spot where there's really big gaps in that cadence, it's definitely problematic. It's going to continue to be very problematic for them. And taking the page out of mobile free to play, I mean, at Battle Strike Force, we were running something like 8 to 10 events simultaneously. We would have multiple daily events running. We would have a weekly event, and then occasionally we would have like these monthly guild v guild events. And so we definitely plan to bring that kind of experience and layer it into the game over time. Does that answer your question, man?
Yeah, I just think that, like I've been thinking about it lately. I think Web3 can't afford to have those big gaps in their development cycle. They need to have content constantly coming out. Like, for example, Illuvium, they have already started building their second tier of NFTs when they were to release when they need it. So like they're not just going to be releasing the game as soon as they can, like most games do in Web2. We've got a product, we can ship it, but they're planning. They know they have to have like their NFTs have to be rare. So when they cut off the phase 1 NFT drops, they're nearly almost ready for phase 2. So I think Web3 needs to move to that status where they're building for the long term, not the short term. Otherwise, they'll be just pump and dumps. In my opinion, I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, the Illuvium thing is a little strange just because, it remains to be seen when they can get a game, live. So I think waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting is also a huge problem because people have spent tons of money on your NFTs and they don't have anything to do with them. And I think that's a really dangerous position to be in. I'm talking about live operations. We're going to ship something that functions and has a core loop, and we're going to aggressively add features to it, as well as live operate it via events. And that is absolutely what you would do in Web 2. Just generally, right? And I think that's how you keep things fresh and exciting and, move forward. I think Crypto Raiders is a great example. I mean, they just released a Battle Pass feature. They, did their first permadeath tournament recently. I mean, I look to them as a group that I think is consistently, making both updates as well as running events. They've got this, first $1 million tournament. I mean, they're doing things that's like really very interesting at a pace that I think is necessary in the space to be successful. So we're taking the approach of get live early with something that's, with a functioning core loop, including all the farm sim stuff, breeding, evolution, and the Rainbow Token Marketplace, and then obviously continue to layer things in throughout the entirety of the year. And I think we'll have these really big moments every time a battle loop launches. Like that'll be a big moment. Potentially gets more people into the community who may not be interested in farming, but want to joust or race or team RPG, etc. And I think that growing, it's really important that we modulate growth, I guess is what I would say, in a way that's going to let us grow in a sustainable fashion. I think a lot of these projects have hockey puck moments, and that leads to an imbalance and an inevitable collapse. So I think you and I are on the same page. I'm approaching it, I guess, just from the perspective of how a Web 2 dev would like launch and then live operate a free-to-play title.
Yeah, cool. Just a quick one. Also, you gave the team an extra week and then they asked for if the game had to go live tomorrow, could it go live?
No. Not with the level of hardening and security that we want. So they definitely needed the extra time. Shit, we probably could take another few weeks, but at this point, we're gonna go live, embrace community. Brace the community, like I said, find a bug, get some RPW, right? I think, and this kind of touches on your point around like Alluvium and not calling them out as a project. I think generally the projects that are like, hey, we're going to ship in like 2 years, again, I'm going to take the opposite approach. We're going to ship, embrace the whole community side of things, come in and help us improve this. We'll continue to ship updates at a rapid cadence and, hopefully continue to build towards, towards real long-term sustainable success. So it's going to be a wild May.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for the answers. Have a good one, everyone.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rubik. Have a good night. Next up, we have Twisted Peach 63. I'm so glad you made it. Come on over, Twisted Peach.
Hey.
Hey.
How you doing?
Doing great.
That's good. I don't really understand the logistics and everything that all you guys talk about, and I guess I don't really need to. I've come in as a base player, or a base person, so I staked the $500, the 500 RBW coins, and I have one piece of land. So I managed to pick up a couple of loot boxes, so that's pretty cool. But I guess my question is, how effective is my gameplay going to be? Am I going to actually be able to play without having a unicorn? Is there anything I'm going to be able to do, or do I just sit back and collect things and then try and sell loot boxes to be able to buy a unicorn?
Yeah, so when the game launches May 2nd, the only thing you can do with land and no unicorns is plant seeds and harvest berries. The loot box functionality will launch hopefully within several weeks of the actual launch of the game itself. The 3 big features post-launch are NFT delegation, the land vending machine, and the loot box functionality. So those are kind of what the team will pivot to focus on. Once the loot boxes are open, you're going to get more seeds, building materials, and that kind of thing. So you will be able to progress your land, upgrade your buildings, and things of that nature. And obviously, you'll be collecting berries. And for players in your position, I recommend you focus on a particular class of unicorn that you're wanting to get, and you wait until the Gen 1 corns start to come onto the market to the point where you're ready to pick one up. And then from there, you'll be able to start to send that corn out to gather, right? And that will be kind of like a step function in your ability to gather materials and resources that you need to further progress your land and obviously get ready for breeding and things of that nature. But I would sell the items and materials that aren't meaningful to the class, right, that you want. And that would be kind of my recommendation for people in your position when the game launches. Well, so that's a nice thing. That's the one thing you can do without a unicorn. So you can plant the seeds and harvest the berries without a unicorn. So it'll be kind of a start. It's not giving you the full experience. Obviously, we want everybody to have a corn. That is a huge part of breeding events and kind of other things that we're going to be launching. And again, there is a surprise for landowners as well who participate. So you're not going to be left out high and dry. And I think you will have the ability to progress, get your land upgraded. And again, I would strategize on the kind of type of unicorn, or excuse me, the class of unicorn that you want, and really kind of focus on basically preparing yourself to onboard that unicorn into your farm and begin to accelerate your progress from there. No, there is not a rent a unicorn feature. NFT delegation, which is one of the 3 features I mentioned as a post-launch priority, is going to give the ability for someone to delegate a unicorn to someone else, but that's much more in line with the guild model. No worries. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Twisted Page. I'm so glad you stepped forward and asked the question. Okay, now I am going to call on JRB. Come on over, JRB. There should be a green accept button. All right. Hey.
Hello. How are you
Hi.
guys?
Doing great.
All right, so jumping in real quick to the DeFi aspect of it in LPing RBW, are you guys looking at methods of being able to get some of that LP value out of the staked LP? So let me give you an example. I go ahead and LP RBW and ETH. That is accruing fees, and if it's staked on a 12-month time basis, those fees are accruing on a daily basis. And when I unstake those, is the intention for crypto unicorns to actually reap those fees and then give me back the LP token? Or would I be able to accrue that at the end? And if I am able to accrue it, is there any type of other platform that you guys are looking at, like Unipilot, where you could actually get some of that benefit upfront as opposed to just unlocking it all at once at the end?
Sorry, couldn't find my unmute button. Great question. So I guess to answer your first piece, no, we're not going to claim the fees or take your fees from you, right? You give us your
Excellent.
LP tokens, which are ERC20s, we lock them up. When you unlock those at the end, they're back in your custody, and you are really the only one that can go to the pool and redeem those tokens for the underlying assets as well as the fees.
Good.
We do not have a plan that's going to let you claim those fees, and I don't think that functionality is going to be possible in the context of the staking contract that we use. So that's a bit of a struggle. Obviously, I've been using V3 a lot and kind of prefer that because you can kind of pull the fees out. But our staking dashboard, or the staking contract, most importantly, would not accommodate for an NFT. So anyway, unfortunately, I don't see a way to let you kind of claim those fees early.
Okay, so they would be locked up entirely until the duration ended.
That is correct. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate
Yeah,
it. Keep doing everything.
Thank you very much. Great question.
Thanks so much. We appreciate you too. Have a great day. All right, next up we have Urinal Bowl. That's okay. Hey.
Hello, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yep, we can hear you.
So I have a series of questions regarding loot boxes since I cannot find any info about it. So first question is, will you provide a list of possible items that can we get from each loot box and their corresponding chance percentage? Second question, is How does the tier of loot box affect the following? Maximum number of items that can be get, percentage of rare items, list of items that can be get, and the golden ticket multiplier. Then third question is, will there be a possibility that we can get eggs or land plots in loot boxes? Then fourth one is, will there be secret items that can be get in loot boxes? Fifth one is, will there be seasonal loot boxes? And last one is, other than the Dark Forest, is there any way to get loot boxes in game?
All right, rapid fire. So
Sorry.
we will be releasing details on the reward tables in the lead up to the launch of the loot box claim feature in game. And that will give you a pretty clear idea of the ranges. Loot boxes are going to have a pretty wide reward band. So occasionally one will be very, very lucky. We have a system as well that is going to create an overall meta game, I would say, around opening loot boxes that will get revealed in that blog post. Seasonal loot boxes, yes, there will be seasonal loot boxes. Getting loot boxes in game initially is not planned. Loot boxes will get rewarded for external things. So things like the Founders Reward Program, the staking leaderboards, end of year leaderboard rewards, and things like that. There will be more loot boxes coming in the Dark Forest for the Shadowcorn holders who stake for that kind of lead up into the Act 2 event. The Act 2 event will also be a distribution mechanism for more loot boxes, both for people who send their corns into that forest on the Team Unicorn side, as well as people who obviously stake their Shadowcorns into the forest as part of Team Shadowcorn. So right now, you can expect loot boxes to get rewarded predominantly outside of the farm sim portion of the game. Where I could see them start to get integrated is in things like the leaderboards, right? Ranking up on in-game leaderboards. There will oftentimes be rewards that include things like loot boxes and things of that nature. So I don't know if I hit all of them. Did I miss one?
Yes. Will there be a possibility that we can get eggs or land in loot boxes?
So no eggs. That would kind of violate the whole breeding system. Keystones, TBD. We are actively discussing that. I'm thinking that we might reserve a certain portion of keystones to give out via things like that. But there is this question of, would the community be in support of that? Do they want all land inflation to occur via the land vending machine? And we may throw up a governance proposal to discuss that specifically. I think anything that touches the economy in that way, we probably want to gut check. So that's TBD on whether or not a land keystone will come out of a loot box.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Great questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your questions, Urinal Bowl. Okay. So we don't have speakers right now. I do want to ask a question that was asked to me by Dado1600. Are there any events planned in real life for us all to meet the team/community, like a very crypto unicorn kind of gathering?
I'm sorry, Sparkly. You're going to have to give me that question again.
Oh, sorry. Are there
I'm
any
distracted by
events?
my dog.
Aw, worth. Are there any events planned in real life for us all to meet the team or the community, like a very crypto unicorn kind of gathering?
Eventually, absolutely. I think we want to see travel restrictions and things of that nature, given we're such a global community already. I would love to see. Yeah, we absolutely do plan that, but want to be in a position where as many people as possible can kind of make that trip happen. So sometime in the future for sure.
All right, that's great news for a lot of people. All right, Augusta says, fans gather, let's go. Okay, let's get LDL, the man of the many names and profile pictures. Let's get you up. Hey.
Everyone. So I have a kind of two-part question. So in regards to the delegation system that you guys are implementing, I was wondering if you guys have any naming convention kind of finalized, and also in the forum, I made a post regarding possible like naming changing suggestions, and I was wondering if that's something that you guys would be willing to entertain.
You mean changing the name from NFT delegation dashboard?
More like what the delegates and the people who
Oh, I see.
like
This was part of the whole scholar thing, right?
correct. Just trying to stray from
Yeah.
that
I mean,
term.
I agree with you that the name should change, and I'm open to that. I think that's a good point. Katrina, I don't know if she's listening to this. Our product director is actively finalizing the delegation UX spec and the feature spec for the team. And so, yeah, we'll take that into active consideration. I'll dive back in. I haven't checked that thread in the last few days. And yeah, I am open in changing the naming convention there. Obviously, from just a functionality perspective, we are very much leaning in the ice poker direction, right? So you go to the dashboard on the website, you will be able to delegate any number of other addresses. Those addresses are then able to log into the game and place and utilize those assets, those NFT assets, without obviously controlling them. And then the split on what you're collecting and things of that nature is set on the dashboard front, right? And there's ways to reject and stuff. So very much taking with the kind of ice poker delegate model. Maybe we just call them delegates. I don't know, but I'm very much open to changing that name. I don't have necessarily any desire to keep it as Scholar.
Okay, great. Because on the forum, a time traveler did a quick poll, and it was like 0% decided to go with Scholar, and everyone else is open to possibly doing something different, it looks like. I appreciate you taking my
I think
question.
we're on the same page. I mean, obviously, we need to think about how this space needs to continue to evolve, right? You can't just change the name and functionally have things be the same and expect a different result. But I love that we're kind of proposing this because I do think it's coming from the right place of like, hey, this whole space needs to evolve. There is a path to sustainability here for all components, but it probably looks different from what we've seen to date. I think it's great that we've already kind of as a community identified that. So yeah, it's awesome. And Katrina, if she's here, let's definitely make sure we're incorporating the thoughts from that topic in the forum.
Okay, thank you so much, Al, for your questions. Yeah, the forum has been a really great hotspot of activity and opinions, and we really appreciate that, everybody. So please, if you have any thoughts or opinions that you want to voice, just let us know in the forum. We're all looking through there. It's very visible, and it really helps us to figure out the kind of things that you guys want. All right, let's have a written question. Stealthy, hit me up.
Okay, so we have a question from Kadaliman in Discord. So in the current format, everyone is equal in RBW staking. Is there a plan for CU to provide more reward to gamers, content creators, and that add real value in the game and ecosystem compared to someone who just tried the game by staking his RBW and does not even play?
feel like I may have lost everyone at this point. Sparkly, you there?
Yep, we're still here.
Still
Hey,
here.
Stealthy,
I'm still
can,
here.
can you can you repeat that question? We
Okay.
haven't been Thanos. We're still here.
Okay. So Kadaliman, I think, is basically asking about parts of the ecosystem fund. Like, what are our plans for content creators or gamers that add real value to our project, to our game, compared to, let's say, like people who just like stake RBW and don't play the game.
If Stealthy's saying anything, I can't hear him, Sparkly. Do we have
Oh,
more questions?
yeah, we do have more questions, and yo, Stealthy, can you send me the questions so I can read them out? Okay, while we're waiting for that to happen, have you been hearing all somehow you can't access them? That's because access is for those with a community corn role, members of the community that have been proven themselves to be active in the server. To be a community corn, just continue being active in general chat or your language channel of choice. No spam, please. We're watching you. Okay. By the way, stay tuned this Friday for the weekly gameplay leak over at the Sneak Peeks channel. Let me see. Will there be seasonal loot boxes? Like maybe loot boxes for Halloween or something to that effect?
Yeah, absolutely. Seasonal loot boxes associated with different classes of obviously land and unicorns are all planned. And I think we'll continue to have. I mean, loot boxes are a core part of many games today, right? And they're going to be an absolutely core part of ours as well.
Oh, that sounds so exciting. Imagine like a Halloween loot box. Do you have any events in mind already for these loot boxes?
Not that I'm going to reveal here.
Oh, okay. Super secret alpha. All right. So somebody says, I loved all the events the team does for the community. This is absolutely honest as I have something to compare it to. So my question is, does the team plan to keep the same frequency of events after the launch of the game, or will they be transitioned to in-game events?
I mean, we're always going to run a reoccurring cadence of events in Discord for the people that are hanging out. As we've kind of stated before, the vast majority of the rewards are going to be, of course, in game. So, as following I forget the name of the topic, but there was obviously a lot of discussion around Discord events and the amount being rewarded and things. And the end result is like, listen, it's 2.5% of the total amount of Unum that was rewarded in the Dark Forest across all of the Discord events. And around that in terms of the number of loot boxes relative to things like the Founders Reward Program, the staking leaderboards, and all of that kind of stuff. So, I think it's important to keep engagement in Discord high. And again, these events are for people that are having fun hanging out. That's kind of the purpose of it. And I think it's a small chunk of the overall economy. And again, that protects us in the event that there's people in there just simply trying to farm rewards. So yeah, we plan to keep a cadence of in-game, Discord events, even as we shift, obviously, the majority of the rewards to the game itself. I mean, I would say that's basically what we've been doing. If you just think about like the Dark Forest being the first little mini game, right? Once the game is live, that will be where you get rewards.
All right. Okay, so another question is, you have many game modes from farming until team RPG. So how do you protect the economy until all of it is realized? For example, at first we need tons of unum for breeding. If you give too little for breeding, then it'll be hard. If you give just the right amount of breeding, then when the jousting launches, what will you give? If you give more unum, then it might be an oversupply. Thank you.
game balancing and economy design 101, is try to balance sinks and sources, right? The Dark Forest, I think, was a pretty good example of that because, you saw a pretty enormous sink in the desire to get Shadowcorn eggs, coupled with this source of Unim. We've made it pretty clear now at this point how much Unim is going to be needed. I still continue to think that people don't really realize how much over time, especially if you're trying to fully kind of upgrade your farms, breed a lot of corns. Adding new features like jousting is really cool because jousting will create this thing where unicorns whose stats are pretty good for jousting are probably going to leave the farm to go joust because there will be more rewards associated with winning jousting tournaments and things of that nature. So that adds additional utility for unicorns. Those unicorns, when they leave the farm, you don't want your farm to become less productive. So there's this need to breed more unicorns to help out around the farm, right? So jousting becomes a source, but also creates, I think, an additional sink in that there's more utility across the board. And utility in terms of the number of use cases, on a per corn basis. And again, I think we can balance the new source with kind of that new utility sink as each of these features come together. And over time, things we've announced like the Shadowcorns represent a deflationary mechanism on the unicorns themselves, right? And the need to effectively burn a unicorn to produce a soul crystal, and then to take that soul crystal and use it to ascend a Shadowcorn, right? So it's kind of those tools, I guess, in our design tool chest that we believe are going to help us better balance our economy over time. And the final point I think I've made a few times, but I think it's important to reiterate is there's like 3 phases as we see. How do I put this? We look at the growth of our economy in 3 phases. The first is the growth phase, and you can get away with a lot in the growth phase as long as there's new DAO showing up. And I think what we've seen now several times is when new DAO fatigues, things fall apart. But you have to look at those economies, and in most cases, they have a single sink, which is breeding, and they have a single like utility, like one game loop, whether it's racing or RPG or whatever. And they fall apart immediately after that. Like we're starting from a foundation that's much broader, given the farm loop and the need to utilize unicorns to maximize productivity across all of the different farm features, the need to utilize Unim post level 5 to upgrade buildings, specifically to get the right materials to upgrade buildings and things. We just have a lot more sinks in place day one than any other project, at least that I've seen in the space today. And so the growth phase, I anticipate, like, yes, you can get away with a lot. I think we're better prepared and better set up for that phase. Then you need to enter the transitional phase. The transitional phase is you shift the focus from inflation of the NFT supply towards the optimization of the current NFT supply. So you take the unicorns you know and you love, and now you start to evolve them further, right? We will have further evolutionary tiers. We're thinking about very cool ways to incentivize people to breed out the unicorns all the way, which creates a higher sink on Unim. And I think we've finally got a good way to do that I think is a nice incentive that we'll be announcing next month. And again, this transitional phase is now I'm further upgrading the unicorns that I have, adding systems like runes and things like that to further give you ways to advance and kind of like tweak and fine tune a unicorn that you really like, I think is very, very important. And that will lead to that in tandem with deflationary measures, like things like the Shadowcorn system, will lead to the overall supply, I think, actually contracting. And I think that gives you a better place to hopefully better match demand at any one time. And then the final phase is like the maturity phase. And at that point, you've got this group of people here who are engaged in the IP, enjoying the game itself, and again, having like genuine fun. So I don't know, that's a super long-winded answer is becoming pretty typical for me, but I think that's a really important thing to continue to try to explain at least how we're trying to do things different. I know I speak with confidence up here. No one has a silver bullet in this space. We're all running experiments simultaneously in real time, and we'll see how they work. I think one of the nice advantages of our design, in particular our systems design, is the number of levers that we have. So if things don't work out as we expect, we have a lot of levers to tweak and tune things to try and get to a balanced position. So it's good to hear that the community is razor focused on this kind of stuff. I know we've now seen several games collapse, and several more that I think are in the process of collapsing. So it's an important thing that we should all be on the lookout for. And, it's top of mind for us as a team.
Yeah, definitely. I really appreciate that people go forward and ask these questions, but the devs have this all figured out and they have planned a lot of levers and sinks in place. So don't worry about things like unum distribution because we'll definitely be on top of it. And the team is on top of these trends. This isn't Laguna Games' first rodeo into game design, so you can leave it up to us. And just like that, an entire hour has gone by. That wraps up our 6th weekly AMA. Thank you so much to everybody for bearing with us throughout our technical difficulties during this AMA. How do you feel about this AMA, Aaron? And how do you feel that the launch is so close?
Yeah, technical issues aside, it's been another good one. I'm anxious to show off the demo build tomorrow. And yeah, heck, we've got one more Friday build after that, and then we're going to be into launch week. So I'm pumped. The team is continuing to work their asses off, and we've really seen some great progress. I mean, last night I was able to pretty much play, for an hour and a half continuously without anything game breaking, anything blocking. It's feeling great. It's performing well. Polish is kind of coming together in a way that's really nice. And so I'm excited to get it out there. It represents our first step as a game team, and then we literally have like a multi-year plan to layer on top of this. And I think to Rubik's point earlier, keep things fun and exciting for not just months, but years to come. I mean, that is really the focus here. And I'm excited. This is like the first big step forward and one that we're going to take, obviously, actively with the community as everybody joins. So I'm pumped about it.
Oh, definitely. Shout out to the dev team. Everybody has been working so hard. And yeah, every time I log in, I see a new improvement, and it makes me so excited for the game launch. So, guys, get excited, get pumped. So if you have any questions that weren't answered in this AMA, please look forward to our next weekly AMA. We'll post a recording of this AMA on our socials if you would like to give it a re-listen. Don't forget to share this with your friends and fellow Unicorn fam who couldn't make it. If you have more burning questions, feel free to reach out to our support channels, Mod Support and Ask the Devs. This has been Sparkly Unicorn with co-host Witty Unicorn and new co-host Stealthy Unicorn. And Tech, Stealthy Unicorn. What a multitasker. Good morning and good night, Unicorn fam. Bye. Yes, please make up for Biddy's uwoos. We're gonna miss his uwoos. All right. Uwu. Bye, everybody.